Hello, and welcome to Living with the Program. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to take you into some extraordinary detail about the way in which personality consciousness is being actively programmed. You know, it's one thing to look at the major themes, but after all, we're dealing with a group of imprinting mechanisms, what we refer to as the planets. These imprinting mechanisms that are moving around the wheel, that are clicking into and out of various gates and lines and thematics. What we know about the nature of human beings is that in their openness, they take in this conditioning of the program and live it out, actualize it as their lives. The program itself, in so many ways, well, it's really a tricky thing. It is doing its very best, in a sense, to maintain the homogenized world and the not-self. And the way in which the program affects us on a day-to-day basis can truly be seen in the nature of the planets themselves and what they represent in terms of the programming information in the context of human design. Basically, the program influences us in three different ways. In one way, there is a teaching that is a control over the kinds of things that are going to influence us. The other side is a way, the other part of the program is a way in which it controls our very expression, the kinds of things that we talk about. The reality is, if you look at the world that we live in, that we have this shared dialogue that takes place relative to specific subjects that comes and goes. It's hard to have a conversation today and not talk about an oil spill somewhere in the United States. We end up with something that in common we discuss. And finally, the program controls us. Three aspects. It controls us in terms of the way in which we are connected to our lives. It influences the way in which we are going to express ourselves as beings. And it controls what is stimulating to us in terms of what we take in as learning. Quite a thing when you think about it. It's why it's so essential to understand the power of strategy and authority in your life. The program has overwhelming power over personality consciousness. It's defining the Maya that we live in and share. It is so easy for the mind to be caught in that and adrift in that and not be able to deal with its own life, to make decisions correctly as itself, not to be influenced by the programming, but being able to navigate through that programming. Yet so much about understanding the nature of the program is understanding the world around you. Understanding what you have to deal with as an aware being in a world that is filled with the not-self. We're all functioning on the same themes. Let's take the example of teaching. There are three different areas in which teaching is programmed. The first one is dominated by Uranus, and it's called the sidetrack. And the sidetrack is always to keep us consciously away from where we potentially can go. It is a sidetrack. We're always being pulled this way and that way in our learning process. And of course, you can see that in the continuity in human design, that if you look at all the open head centers, 70% of humanity have open head centers. There's a lot of thinking about things that do not matter. And the sidetrack is a way of pulling humanity away from seeing clearly and being distracted into looking elsewhere. Obviously, there is always the this and that of any activation, and no activation in and of itself is a negative. It cannot be. The very power of Uranus to change the thing that we are interested in may indeed be correct if you are operating correctly and making the decisions to define what is your life. That sidetrack, in fact, may be for you. But in reality, for humanity, it's just a way of diverting their attention. If we come to the next in the teaching scheme of the program, we get to the Neptunian misinformation. We are constantly being pummeled at the consciousness level with misinformation, lies. It's an extraordinary thing for me. If you put a lie on Facebook, it'll travel 10,000 times faster than the truth. It is the nature and the power of the lie. Misinformation is something that is so important to any kind of controlling mechanism. The misinformation that is put out by whatever organizations, governments, religions, you name it, as a way of control. And then finally, there's Pluto. And in Pluto, there is always the potential of truth. It is something that is so special about the nature of the Plutonian impact. And yet that truth is something that is deeply, deeply, deeply difficult to get at. You know, if you think about the life of Pluto, the cycle of Pluto, a cycle that takes about 256 years, there's no way that a human being can have real contact with the depth and the profundity of what's available in that cycle. And that cycle is where the truth emerges. It is not so much that the Plutonic teaching is that you can have the truth now, but that you go looking for it. And you go looking for it in that mix of misinformation and being sidetracked. Personality consciousness is designed to be confused and distorted, at least in terms of the way in which the program operates. And again, though I can paint that so easily as a negative, this teaching, the imprinting of the program, at the same time, it carries with it its beauty. There is that potential for truth. Without misinformation in a duality, you do not often see the reality on the other side. And that sidetrack can truly be of value. It all in the end comes down to the same thing. It's how you make a decision. If your mind is controlling your life, if your mind is making your decisions, then you're caught in the program's manipulation, and you will go the way it will take you. But if you make decisions as yourself, then the program is simply a palette that you can dip into and paint out of it whatever you wish, because it has no control over the way in which you are going to move and act in this life. None. All your strategy and authority.